Close your eyes and let yourself be dragged back to that exact, agonizing fraction of a second, the precise moment you walked away from the clash, the heated argument, the subtle degradation, where you were verbally slaughtered and outmatched. Do you remember the visceral weight of it? Your heart was hammering against your ribs like a cornered, panicked animal, desperately seeking an escape. Your hands, hidden out of sight under the table, were trembling with violent, involuntary spasms. A suffocating lump formed in your throat, dry and bitter, as if an invisible, malicious hand was brutally crushing your vocal cords, suffocating the righteous defiance that begged to be unleashed. You lowered your gaze, you swallowed your pride, you walked away with a chest completely submerged in the boiling lava of pure, unadulterated resentment. You felt entirely stripped of your dignity, fundamentally broken by the echoing dominance of someone who did not even deserve to breathe the same air as you. Myth Eryndor warmly welcomes you to a journey of absolute psychological mastery. If this brutal reflection resonates with the silent, agonizing battles you fight every single day, do not just pass by. Hit that subscribe button right now to fuel this channel, and let us continue to forge these impenetrable psychological armors together in the videos to come. Your support is the raw driving force that keeps these harsh, unfiltered truths alive. Now, let the night fall. This is when the true psychological torture commences. Lying alone on your bed, staring blankly into the pitch-black abyss of your ceiling, your brain violently rewinds that wretched tape. But this time, your mind plays the role of a desperate screenwriter, frantically altering the script. You conjure up a dozen razor-sharp rebuttals. If only I had said this to their face, or I should have exposed their pathetic hypocrisy right then and there, or why couldn't I just stand my ground like a real person? Thousands of these agonizing what-ifs slice through your consciousness, transforming you into a miserable prisoner inside the four walls of your own sanctuary. You are tormented by a crippling sense of inadequacy. You sit there judging yourself as an absolute coward, yearning to tear through the fabric of time just to deliver one final, devastating blow, a combination of words that could pierce directly through the arrogant skull of the person who trampled over you. But you need to stop, right here, right in this very exact moment. I am about to ask you a question so piercing it will shatter the fragile glass house of your ego, a terrifying truth you have spent your entire life running from. How many more nights will you spend agonizing over your inability to prove your worth to someone who never had the slightest intention of respecting you in the first place? Why do you harbor this pathetic thirst for validation from creatures whose hearts are forged of cold stone and whose minds are rotting with envy? Do you genuinely believe that if your vocabulary was richer, your logic sharper, your reflexes quicker, you would have emerged victorious? Do you actually think your carefully constructed sentences could civilize a beast that is already intoxicated by the sight of your blood, hell-bent on dragging you down into its filthy mud? Here is the freezing, breathless bucket of reality poured straight over your head. You did not lose that battle because you lacked the right words. You lost the moment you decided to open your mouth. Yes, read that again. The very nanosecond your lips parted to justify, to explain, to defend yourself, with a voice trembling with raw emotion, you voluntarily stripped yourself of your own armor and blindly stepped into a slaughterhouse they specifically designed for you. When you attempt to verbally spar with an inherently loud, obnoxious entity, you are willingly degrading your own frequency down to the abyssal depths of their inferiority. You are actively participating in a rigged game where the rules are entirely dictated by whoever has the least amount of shame. It is time to obliterate this incredibly naive delusion that you must win an argument to assert your dominance. In the hidden realm of those who truly possess power, words are the cheapest, most worthless currency when faced with aggressive ignorance. A majestic lion never bothers to unleash a deafening roar just to prove its existence to a pack of rabid, barking wild dogs blocking its path. It simply glides past them, and its profoundly silent, towering presence alone is more than enough to make the entire pack whimper and tuck their tails between their legs. From this exact second forward, you must forcefully rip out the mindset of a struggling prey entangled in a spider's web. Prey reacts, predators observe. Prey makes a cacophony of noise driven by blind terror. Predators exist in an eerie, calculating stillness. You no longer need to exhaust your spirit hunting for the perfect comeback, because the most terrifying, ruthless, and devastating weapon in existence, the only weapon capable of piercing through any psychological armor without leaving a single trace, is not made of sound. It is the absolute chilling absence of it. It is the ruthless power of silence. To wield this absolute chilling absence of sound effectively, you must first look through the eyes of the very demons trying to break you. Think about the fundamental architecture of a parasite in the natural world. A parasite cannot survive in isolation. It requires a living, breathing host to latch onto, to violently drain, and to sustain its otherwise pathetic, fragile existence. The loud, overbearing individuals who seek to publicly humiliate you, who constantly push your boundaries and belittle your worth, are entirely driven by this exact same parasitic biology. They are not genuinely powerful. They are desperately, agonizingly weak. Deep within the core of their twisted psychology lies a terrifying black hole of insecurity, a profound self-hatred that they must constantly mask with arrogant bravado and aggressive theatrical posturing. When they launch a verbal assault against you in the middle of a room, they are not actually trying to defeat you as an equal. They are begging you for a psychological lifeline. They are trying to extract your raw emotional reaction, your anger, your fear, your stuttering defensive justifications to temporarily fill the agonizing void within themselves. Every single time you argue back, every time you let your voice tremble as you try to inject logic into their chaos, you bleed your precious psychological energy directly into their starving mouths. You validate their grand illusion of superiority. But what happens when you completely sever that emotional supply line? What happens when you offer them absolutely nothing but the abyss? Silence is not just the mere absence of words. It is a suffocating, impenetrable vacuum. When a toxic aggressor hurls their venom at you and it is met with dead, unyielding silence, the dynamic in the room instantly and violently shifts. There is suddenly no host for their parasite to attach to. Their aggressive words are left hanging in the cold air, echoing loudly and pathetically in the empty space between you. Without your frantic reaction to absorb the impact of their blows, the sheer absurdity and profound ugliness of their behavior are suddenly put on glaring public display. They instantly become the solitary raving clown in a circus where absolutely no one is laughing. This strategic silence acts as a brutal, unflinching mirror, forcing them to look at their own grotesque reflection without the distraction of your retaliation. You will watch in magnificent real time as their initial burst of aggressive confidence rapidly decays into a frantic, uncomfortable confusion. You will see the subtle twitch in their jaw. They will inevitably raise their voice, trying to amplify their attack, and they might even try to mock your silence directly. But beneath that desperate escalation, their subconscious mind is completely panicking. They are drowning in the very void they arrogantly tried to push you into by uttering absolutely nothing. By refusing to engage in their pathetic theatrical performance, you have single-handedly starved a ravenous predator to death without lifting a single finger. You have turned their greatest weapon against them, letting the sheer gravity of their own toxic words pull them down into the mud, while you remain standing on pristine, untouched high ground. Understanding their parasitic nature is only the awakening. The true test lies in how you physically manifest this suffocating void when the fire is right in front of your face. Silence, when executed poorly with hunched shoulders and trembling hands, can easily be mistaken for submission, reflecting the frozen terror of a cornered prey resigning to its fate. We are not cultivating the silence of the defeated. We are forging the deadly, calculating stillness of the untouchable. This physical architecture of stillness requires supreme dictatorial command over your own biological reflexes. When the verbal onslaught begins and the humiliation is hurled your way, your primitive brain will instantly scream at you to either flee the scene or fight back blindly, flooding your veins with frantic, blinding adrenaline. Your first and only physical task in this precise fraction of a second is to forcefully override your own nervous system. You ground your feet solidly into the earth. You intentionally let your shoulders drop from their defensive, tense posture, physically releasing the anxiety they are trying to inject into you. You breathe slowly, deliberately, and deeply from your diaphragm while staring directly into the chaotic epicenter of their childish tantrum. Your gaze is the most lethal component of this entire physical strategy. You absolutely do not look down at the floor. You do not look away to break the tension. But you also do not glare at them with burning, fiery rage, because projecting rage implies that their words have successfully penetrated your emotional armor and wounded your ego. Instead, you adopt a look of profound, almost clinical detachment. Imagine you are a seasoned, world-weary scientist observing a bizarre, slightly defective insect thrashing wildly inside a clear glass jar. You look at them not as a legitimate threat to your existence, but as a fascinating, slightly pitiful spectacle of human lack of control. You look straight through their eyes, past their aggressive, loud facade, and stare directly into the terrified, deeply insecure child screaming behind their vocal cords. Let your facial expression remain entirely deadpan, completely devoid of a single micro-expression of hurt, anger, or even amusement. The sheer physical contrast between their red-faced, erratic exertion and your statuesque, unblinking presence creates a psychological dissonance so heavy it will literally crush their momentum. Aggressors subconsciously expect you to physically shrink, to stutter, to match their chaotic frequency with your own chaotic defense. When you stand there utterly relaxed, completely unbothered, gazing upon them with a hauntingly hollow stillness, you cease to be a human victim in their eyes. You become an impenetrable wall of solid stone. You become an eerie, supernatural entity that their primitive aggression simply cannot comprehend or dismantle. It is deeply, fundamentally unsettling for any human being to exert their maximum aggressive energy and receive zero physical or emotional feedback in return. It completely short-circuits their nervous system. Their words will inevitably begin to falter. Their posture will involuntarily shrink under the crushing, oppressive weight of your unyielding gaze. Without opening your mouth, you are physically communicating a message infinitely more devastating than any combination of harsh words ever could. You are entirely insignificant to me, and your pathetic chaos does not possess the power to ripple the calm waters of my reality. Yet mastering the physical architecture of stillness is utterly useless if your internal world is still a chaotic hurricane of desperately suppressed rage. The true absolute mastery of silence is not merely a superficial performance of the body, it is a profound, irreversible revolution of the mind. As you stand there before your abuser, physically statuesque and unyielding, your ego will violently rebel against your restraint. Your pride will scream at you to draw blood, to defend your honor, deeply convinced that by staying quiet, you are helplessly allowing them to assassinate your character and dictate your worth to the world. You will feel that deeply familiar burning knot twisting in your stomach, accompanied by the desperate clawing urge to vomit out a perfect rehearsed counter-argument to mathematically prove that you are not the failure they claim you are. This is the critical defining juncture where you must brutally sever your self-worth from the venom dripping from their lips. You must truly, at a cellular level, internalize the harsh reality that the very act of defending yourself is inherently an acknowledgement of the attack's potential validity. Think about it with piercing clarity. If a raving, delusional lunatic on a street corner suddenly pointed a filthy finger at you and screamed at the top of his lungs that you were a purple alien from a distant galaxy, would you fall to your knees in a panic? Would you frantically dig into your wallet to present your birth certificate and ID to logically prove you are a human being? Would you lie awake at night, agonizing over how to verbally destroy that lunatic in a debate? No, you would feel a fleeting, dismissive wave of pity, realize their mind is completely detached from reality, and you would walk away entirely unscathed without a second thought. The people who relentlessly bully, belittle, and attempt to verbally destroy you in your daily life are fundamentally no different than that street corner lunatic. Their harsh perception of you is a deeply flawed, entirely fabricated hallucination born from their own psychological sickness, their own unhealed traumas, and their own pathetic jealousies. Why on earth are you treating their desperate, toxic hallucinations as if they hold the heavy weight of an objective, universal verdict? To truly conquer the internal storm raging inside your chest, you must permanently strip them of their imaginary authority over your soul. You are the sole judge, jury, and executioner of your own intrinsic value. When you truly deeply grasp this undeniable truth, the burning urge to frantically explain yourself instantly evaporates into thin air. The boiling anger within you miraculously transmutes into a chilling, analytical calm. You suddenly realize that you do not ever need to defend a fortress that is fundamentally impenetrable. You begin to listen to their vicious insults the exact same way you would listen to the meaningless howling of a harsh winter wind outside a thick, soundproof glass window. It is loud, it is noisy, it is violent, but it absolutely cannot touch the warmth of your internal fire. Your internal silence transforms from a state of suppression into a sacred sanctuary, a soaring fortress of stoic resilience, where their petty human chaos is fundamentally and permanently denied entry. When that internal storm finally settles into a state of unbreakable tranquility, you will witness the final glorious collapse of the reality they tried to force upon you. This is the ultimate ascension, the exact beautiful moment the invisible crown of absolute psychological power is permanently transferred onto your head. Eventually, facing the terrifying void of your unyielding silence, the aggressor will simply run out of breath. Their desperate parasitic attempt to extract your life force will fail spectacularly in front of everyone, leaving them utterly depleted, silently humiliated by their own chaotic, unreciprocated outburst. You will watch as they break eye contact first, unable to sustain the overwhelming pressure of your deadpan gaze. They will inevitably mutter a pathetic, face-saving final insult and clumsily attempt to walk away, but their retreat will be heavy, burdened with the crushing subconscious realization that they just lost a brutal psychological war against an opponent who never even bothered to draw a sword. And you will remain exactly where you are, completely untouched, remarkably unbothered, and entirely whole. You have not sacrificed a single microscopic ounce of your precious dignity to roll around in the filthy mud with a pig. You did not degrade your hard-earned intellect to communicate in the primitive, aggressive grunts of the desperately insecure. The profound aftermath of this ultimate victory does not manifest as a sudden, loud burst of triumphant, arrogant joy. Instead, it slowly settles deep into your bones as a profound, unshakable quietness. It is the chilling, majestic confidence of an apex predator who knows precisely what it is capable of and feels zero petty compulsion to prove its dominance to the lesser, noisy creatures of the forest. The next time you lie in the pitch-black sanctuary of your bedroom, as the night falls, your brain will no longer violently rewind the tape to torture you with 1,000 agonizing what-ifs. You will not lie awake wishing you had spoken a different combination of words. Instead, you will vividly replay the magnificent memory of their panicked, shifting eyes, their embarrassingly faltering voice, and their complete humiliating unraveling in the face of your impenetrable void. You will smile quietly in the dark, comfortably bathed in the intoxicating peace of true hard-won psychological mastery. You will finally understand with crystal clarity that the ultimate, most devastating revenge against those who maliciously seek to destroy you is not to angrily destroy them back, but to render them completely, utterly, and permanently irrelevant to your majestic existence. You become an untouchable ghost to their desperate chaos, a flawless mirror to their deepest insecurities, and the undisputed master of your own unbreakable domain. Let them scream into the dark abyss until their throats bleed. Let them choke on the bitter poison they so desperately tried to force-feed you. You belong to the realm of the silent now, and in that terrifying, beautiful, infinite silence, you are absolutely invincible. Conclusion. In the grand tapestry of human interaction, true power is rarely found in the loudest voice or the sharpest retort. It is forged in the impenetrable crucible of absolute silence. Toxic aggressors are fundamentally psychological parasites, desperate individuals who rely entirely on your emotional reactions to validate their fragile egos and temporarily fill their own agonizing internal voids. When you engage in their chaotic games, you bleed your precious psychological energy and grant them the very power they inherently lack. However, by strategically deploying dead, unyielding silence, you instantly sever their emotional supply line. This is not the silence of submission, but the calculated, chilling stillness of the untouchable. It requires mastering your physical reflexes, grounding your posture, breathing deeply, and adopting a deadpan clinical gaze while simultaneously conquering the internal storm of your own ego. You must deliberately detach your self-worth from their delusional accusations, treating their venom like the meaningless howling of the wind against a thick, soundproof window. Ultimately, your complete unresponsiveness acts as a brutal mirror, forcing them to confront their own grotesque insecurities until they collapse entirely under the crushing weight of their unreciprocated aggression. You emerge entirely unscathed, transforming their desperate chaos into your ultimate victory. In this majestic quietness, you realize that the most devastating revenge is rendering your abusers utterly irrelevant, cementing your status as the undisputed master of your own unbreakable reality. Profound lesson learned. Your emotional energy is a sacred currency, and you hold absolute authority over who gets to spend it. Defending yourself against an irrational, malicious attack does not prove your worth. It merely validates the attacker's delusion that they possess the authority to judge you. True psychological invincibility comes from recognizing that an aggressor's venom is always a reflection of their own internal brokenness and deep-seated trauma, never an objective measure of your inherent value. How to apply this to daily life? Whenever you face a toxic boss, an argumentative partner, or a deeply unpleasant stranger, immediately intercept your biological instinct to fight back or justify your actions. Ground your feet flat on the floor consciously, drop your tense shoulders, and take a slow, deep breath from your diaphragm. Instead of matching their erratic volume, observe them with cold, clinical detachment. Look directly into their eyes without a single trace of anger or fear, as if you are a scientist observing a malfunctioning machine. Give them nothing but a deadpan stare and heavy, suffocating silence. Let their aggressive words hang awkwardly in the empty space between you. Refuse to internalize their chaos and consciously remind yourself that their fabricated opinions hold absolutely zero jurisdiction inside the fortress of your mind. Question for the audience. What do you personally find is the most difficult part about staying completely silent when someone is unfairly provoking or insulting you? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comment section below. We would love to read your perspectives so everyone can learn and draw strength from each other's insights. If you found value in this message, please subscribe to the channel. Your support is our greatest motivation to keep researching and producing more deep, high-quality content like this for you in the future.